the way that I approached discipline was really from a punitive point of view. It's like if you make a mistake that's big enough, you're going to get suspended.
When I first came into Pioneer High School, I think there was a situation in which I processed myself a lot of suspensions and expulsions.
A lot of the time the message that kids hear is you got to follow the rules. If you don't follow the rules, you can't be a part of this community. And the restorative justice message is totally different than that, you know, because the loudest thing a kid hears when they hear that message is, you don't want me here. The difference with a restorative justice process or approach, philosophy, is that we want you, we love you, and we want you here. We want to figure out how to make it work and how to bring you back into our community and restore that connection, and also help you and the victim work something out so that this doesn't become a problem in the end. And from the beginning, everybody recognized that was a far better approach than just, you know, a suspension or expulsion.
I may have suspended one person since I got involved in restorative practices and started seeing how they work to support students. It's really changed how I approach working with students and the way I think about transforming human behavior.
So for me it was like, well, yeah, I mean, I want to work with people, and restorative justice gives you a way to connect with them in a maybe a more kind of meaningful way about some of the choices they're making.
The teachers that I've seen in Santa Rosa that we worked with, they were they were hesitant at first and then really happy to be able to change their role. You know, you have this role that you play as a teacher to keep control, and you have this whole thing, and it separates you from your students. And it's necessary on a level. I mean, you got so many of them. You got 31 of them. You got to keep moving. But to all of a sudden be able to sit down and quit being a teacher and just start being a person, and to sit there and communicate directly, it makes bonds. I found that those are the kids that I keep track of the rest of the year, because I like them now. I have a connection with them.
It takes a lot of courage for a teacher who's had a conflict with a kid to have a restorative process with that kid. That takes guts on the part of a teacher. It can also be incredibly powerful and can make a huge difference for both the student and the teacher, and how they see each other and how they interact from there forward.
I was caught with some knives at school. Me and two friends ditched, and then they searched my car and found some knives. And so instead of being on probation, I came here.
Sitting in a circle talking about what we did and how else it could have gone wrong, and just breaking it down into pieces was, well, it helped me understand how the situation could have gone worse, or what else could have happened, and then how I can get back to society, to the community.
We learned take responsibility for our actions and learn the kind of things that we do affect other people.
These kids are in these meetings, they're being held accountable to what they're doing. They have a plan of how they want to handle it, whether it's through a community project, working with others to teach others that, hey, don't make the same mistake I did. That's been well received. I think they've been held accountable to, in my experience anyway. I may have said earlier, I was, two recent students wrote incredible letters of apologies, and not just to me, but to everybody that was affected by the incident. But it really meant a lot, and I could really see that they were remorseful for what they did. They realized that the choices they made at the time were not the best choice. And I believe that it's, they really got something from that.
It really is much more effective because it puts a person on the hot seat. It's not like, oh, you get suspended, you're going to go home and watch TV all day the next day. It's really different because you have to show up and own up to what you've done. So it's much more powerful and it's a lot harder.
I think that's where we see the biggest difference. I think we see students in that process of expulsion being kind of removed from the school. They don't have to necessarily grapple as much with the actions they've taken. And when you get a real restorative justice kind of situation, to have a student take responsibility or at least begin to grapple with how to do so or build the skill set, which they may lack, to do so more so than they've ever done before, you're really kind of, I don't know, being respectful in the sense that it might be easier for them to just kind of be, get their consequence and go away than to really have to see a person or a part of the institution or something and their parents or their guardians, whoever they may be, aunt, grandma, and say, hey, yeah, I've done something I'm not really proud of.
At the Restorative Conference, the youth sits down in a face-to-face meeting that lasts for about 2 hours. And they're meeting with all the people that they've impacted. And those people are the victims and the community members and school teachers, principals, law enforcement, and families. So everyone at that conference gets a chance to speak and be heard and to share how they've been impacted by the incident of wrongdoing. And importantly, the victim gets a chance to tell their story, to tell the story of how their life has been affected by the young man's behaviors. And this chance to tell their story can be quite important for the victim's healing. And it's in this face-to-face dialogue at this restorative conference that the youth gets to really understand the full and deeper impact of how his actions have affected others.
When we get to the face-to-face, and when the kid gets to hear how what he did impacted someone who's volunteering their time to be there, is very powerful. And I would say 99% of the time, the kids go inward and they're able to reflect back and go, wow, I didn't realize.
In these circles, we try to create an equality between ages, between classes, between races. And for youth to experience that in school ages, I think it's critical to developing an understanding of just how society works.
In this way, we promote that this healing is as a process that will comprise the society and put it together again.
It's more of I would say a weaving back together of what's been severed or wasn't even there to begin with. It's beginning to connect the hearts and the people that are involved, and that includes community.
Oftentimes I've felt through the 17 years that I've sent my children to school that the main concern has been about their academics. And the social emotional piece to me is really critical. I don't feel that as a parent I can do this alone. And I feel like the learning institution and the people in the community are a big part of helping me raise my child. I don't think as a parent any of us can do this alone.
And what I really like about this program is the kids, they're not coming here to make excuses for what they did. They're coming into this knowing that they made a mistake, they want to make it better, they're owning up to what they did. So it's not an adversarial thing like sitting in a courtroom where they're trying to prove their innocence. They're stepping up, they know what they did wrong and they want to make it better, and we talk about it. And just the playing field's just different, and it's just it really helps the program knowing that these kids, they start off knowing that, hey, I'm here to make this better. I want to make it right.